So yeah, a lot of us are being faced with some pretty big decisions we have to make right now. And this is causing a lot of people anxiety. It's causing a lot of people to be frozen in indecision because they feel like their back is up against the wall. And so we're going to talk about that today in our Wealth Expansion Weekly. So let's dive into it and into the energy for the week. So yesterday we started the week off on a 2 energy, and that 2 is making us aware that this week is all about decisions and deciding whether or not we're going to decide that we belong and decide whether or not we're going to believe in unity consciousness versus separation, and abundance versus lack. I think those are the ultimate higher level spiritual themes of the week. Now, how that shows up for individual people can be different. You know, some people are having to decide whether to stay in a job or stay at school, or, you know, where they're going to live. There's lots of big life choices coming up and being presented to many of us, largely due to things happening you know, in our society around us, depending on where we live, what kinds of rules and regulations are being implemented and seemingly forced upon us. And so that's putting us in, many of us, in a position of, wow, this doesn't resonate with me. And so if I decide not to comply with this, there's repercussions. And if I decide I am going to comply with this out of, I either want to say complacency or just resigned, like this feeling of resignation, that can cause us to feel not great about the decision that we're making, especially such a big decision. And so many people are experiencing really challenging times right now. Now, some of us are making other kinds of decisions and they're more on a spiritual level, but for all of us, no matter if they seem like they're in our, I want to say, our everyday lives, or if they seem like they're more on a higher spiritual plane, depending on where you are in your consciousness shift, either way, it has a spiritual implication overall. So, but I want to stress about this, you know, the week ends on this 8 energy, and it ends on a full Sturgeon Moon. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. And we're in this 5 energy year, so we're being asked to make decisions all year, big decisions, big choices. And then this month, it happens to really focus on our physical world because of that 4 energy coming up. We're really also talking about, you know, making a commitment with that 4 energy. And that is what is coming through this month, is we're really having to decide and commit. And what we're deciding right now is very important. It's going to have such a longevity to it. Not to make people any more stressed out about the decisions. You can't make a mistake. So no matter what you decide, I just want to say that right now, you can't actually make a mistake. There are no mistakes, there are only experiences. So no matter what you do decide, it's going to help you further along on your consciousness shift no matter what. You really can't screw this up, even though it feels so huge and it feels like, you know, life-changing and life-altering. It is, but in the way that no matter what you decide, you won't have made a mistake. It's the right path for you. And really, you know, stepping into that and trusting that. Because especially today with this 3 energy, you know, the 3 energy, I'm all too familiar with it because I am a 3 of spades as my birth card. And so I understand the tendency with, when faced with decision making, especially things that feel so huge, the tendency to feel like frozen, or, you know, how can I actually make a decision of this magnitude? Because it's just, it feels like so much that you kind of get frozen in place. And so, I want to say to anyone who's feeling that way, really stressing that you can't make a mistake. There are no mistakes. And so, and by being frozen and not deciding, you're still making a choice. So really, it's not helping you to not make a choice. And you will be making a choice by week's end, even if you stay frozen. That is a choice. So really, taking that self-empowerment, taking ownership of your ability to make decisions and choose for yourself, and doing it from, here's the key to all of this is, doing this decision making from the heart. So inviting the mind into the heart space, not making the decision based on mental energy, but the mental spinning that is really heavy right now in this week. And it's really not easy to do. You have to bring yourself into a place of quiet, of stillness, and really be able to feel into the heart, feel that love vibration, and ask what the heart wants. Ask what your soul wants. And if if you've already made a decision that you now regret, practice self-acceptance and self-love. This is so important to understand, is that, because you can't make a mistake, even if you're regretting a decision that you did make, you can still make new decisions now. And you have this week before things are really kind of starting to get set in for a while of changing your trajectory. So if, you've done something that, you wish you hadn't now, the first step to changing that is to accept it and then to love yourself. Love yourself, forgive yourself if you feel like you've made a mistake, and recognize that there were no mistakes, that it brought you to this moment of change and transformation. And so how can that be a bad thing? Even if there were consequences that you didn't love, and that's the same going forward. If you're making a big decision now and, somewhere down the road you wished you had chosen differently, remember this message, come back to this message, because it's really about understanding that there are no mistakes. There are only experiences, and the experiences you're creating for yourself right now are helping you on your spiritual growth, on your consciousness expansion. And so I really want to like, the message that came through when I was, really leaning into this today is, you're fine, you're okay, you're safe, you're protected, you're loved, you're honored, you're respected, you're appreciated, and you only need to choose that you belong. That you belong here in this world, that you belong to the spirit world simultaneously. I talk about this a lot, this belonging, this decision to remember that you belong. It's not whether or not you're gonna belong, it's the remembering that you do, because it is the truth. And there's no way to choose that not to be the truth. You can choose to experience a separation, but that still doesn't undo the truth that you do actually belong. And you don't need validation from clients, from family, from employers, governments, society. You don't need validation from your bank account, like any, how many likes you have or followers you have. None of this is important in knowing that you belong here, and knowing that your voice is important, and knowing that your message is important, and speaking your truth is important, and showing up as your authentic self is important. This isn't something that you don't need anything outside from yourself to know this truth. And it's also okay when you temporarily forget this and you do dive into separation, and maybe from that space you've made less than desirable choices for yourself. All of this is okay. The part that's not productive, not helpful in this process is beating yourself up for not getting it perfect. That's the real issue here with decision making. That's what will keep you stuck. that's what will keep you frozen and not able to be making decisions from empowered place, right? And so the resistance can be massively uncomfortable. It can create all kinds of pains and symptoms in the body. It can create symptoms in your immediate environment, things that, you know, just there's a lack of flow to what you're doing. Things can feel like they're a lot harder than they really should be, or, you know, need to be. That's when you know that you're resisting the belonging, you're resisting the unity consciousness, you're in separation. And so that resistance I'm talking about is the resistance to accepting and loving yourself exactly where you are in this moment. This is the way out, right? The resistance to the belonging, the resistance to the unity consciousness, to being one with your body, to being one with source, one with the collective, one with humanity, the resistance to your own humanity, that you're not always going to get it right or what you think is right, and that's okay. There's no perfection in this consciousness shift. We're all experiencing this. There's no right or wrong way to shift your consciousness. Everyone has their own path. Perfectionism only serves to create more separation. It takes us further away from unity consciousness. Unity is where the love is. Unity is where the peace is. Unity is where ease is, where abundance is, where wealth is, where health and money and love and business expansion, all of that flows easily when you're in unity consciousness. So how do we get from where we are right now in this space of having to make these big decisions or feeling frozen in that to unity consciousness? Well, we begin right here, right now, accepting ourselves, loving ourselves, acknowledging that the choices we're faced with right now are huge. They're huge, and they're not easy for some of us to make, especially some of us who are used to looking to other people to tell us what we should decide. And we're in this space now where we are having to learn to make these decisions for ourselves and to be authentic and stand in our sovereignty. And when we do that, that takes us closer to unity consciousness. When we depend on others to tell us what to do, what we should do, what's right, what's wrong, that's when we go into separation, because we're first separated from ourselves when we're looking to people outside of ourselves, people, things, organizations, governments, whatever, to tell us what to do and how it should be. So we need to recognize that although these decisions are challenging, and it may be challenging for us to, those of us who've depended a lot on other people or outside influences to tell us what to do, now having to switch it up and start depending on ourselves and looking within for the answers, going into our own heart space for the answers, coming into gratitude for that, remembering that we do have choices, no matter what it seems like on the outside. Even when it seems like our back is up against the wall and we don't feel like we really have a choice, we have a choice. And and the gratitude in knowing that we have a choice and that we get to make those choices, we get to make those decisions. It's actually our human right to do so. And so we always have a choice. We can choose to continue to play in separation, or we can choose to leap into the unknown, which is what the energies are asking us to do this week and all year. And you have all week to land into your choice, but you must land into a choice, and you will land into a choice, like I said, even if you stay frozen, because by week's end, there's going to be a momentum that will be amplified by the 8 energy and the full Sturgeon Moon. And this moon, it has massive longevity of the legacy kind. If you I actually looked up what a sturgeon was, and it's a fish that belongs to a long ancestral line, more than 135 million years old. And the females live to 150 years. So we are talking massive longevity, massive legacy. We're talking about heritage, about lineage. We're talking about abundance, because these fish at one point were extremely abundant in the world. And now, now they're actually not. And there's a whole thing about that in remembering that the lack is an illusion. The lack of sturgeon right now is an illusion. They have this heritage, this lineage of great abundance. And it's about remembering who we are and were way back to much different times. Remembering who we were as Lemurians, as conscious creators, living in this vibration of pure love frequency. It's about bringing an end, because full moons bring endings. It's about bringing an end to the lack consciousness. You know, like I was saying, the sturgeon are a rare fish now, which creates this illusion of lack, but this heritage of great abundance is the real message here. Abundance is always prevalent. It's always here. And illusion and lack is always an illusion. It's never the truth. And we're being reminded that what we're seeing in the physical world right now is all separation and lack. It's an illusion. And I know it seems hard for the brain to wrap itself around that, because it's the brain's job to keep you alive. And it's caught up in a constant loop of fight, flight most of the time, and most certainly in these times, and most certainly when we're faced with such big decisions as we are now. The invitation right now is to interrupt that loop of lack consciousness. It's, you know, done by inviting that mind into the heart space and feeling your way into love, into truth, into unity, into oneness. For it's in this vibration of pure love that lack cannot exist. And the vibration of pure love is really the truth. It's really the truth of who we are. It's only abundance in this space of pure vibrational love. So allow these understandings to guide your heart today and this week in your decision making. And know that not making a choice is a choice, and that's okay too. It's all okay, and you can just focus on this, you'll be golden. How can I love and accept myself a little bit more today? Just ask yourself that every day, every time you start to feel the anxiety. How can I love and accept myself a little bit more today, in this moment, this week, this month, in this time of massive consciousness shift? How can I love and accept myself more? Because that is really where the energy is asking us to dive into. It's asking us to really lean into that, and really lean into that self-love, because everything stems from there. And that is the key to everything, making these decisions, and also how we're going to relate to the rest of the world, and how we're going to experience life moving forward in the next few weeks, in the next few months, and into next year. So we're at a pivotal time. It's a really important time. I know I say the energies are always really powerful, but this week is pretty huge. And if you have any questions, comments, let me know if this resonates with you. I love to hear your feedback, and I'm here for you if you have questions, or if you have anything coming up for you when you're hearing this message and you'd like some more support on that. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back again next week with another Wealth Expansion Weekly. Have a great day, and happy decision making.